everyone. So let me go to full screen. Today we're going to be talking about 9.3 arcs and central angles. And we've been talking a little bit about circles. So you can see this circle. We have this circle O over here. As a reminder, AO, this segment is a radius, as is B. Now I want you to pay attention to this angle right here. This angle with its vertex on as the center. So it's called a central angle. So a central angle is an angle with its vertex at the center of the circle. Okay, so remember that vertex is that place where it starts to turn. Okay, so in this case, angle AOB is a central angle. Now, with angle, you can't call that angle O because it could be referring to like this side of the angle. So you're going to always have to use the three letters if you're going to write a central angle. All right, so every central angle intersects an arc of a circle. So this right here is actually an arc of a circle, okay? Arcs are a portion of the circumference of a circle, okay? A portion of the circumference of a circle, we call them the arc of a circle. All right, arcs are interesting. They have length and measure. When I say by measure, it means that like the rotation, and it's given in degrees. That's going to be really important. That's what we're going to be talking about today. The length part is a piece of the circumference, but we're going to talk about that at a later date. That's going to be in like 9.5 and 9.6, okay? So for now, we're going to be looking at the measure of an arc. So it's a rotation. It's given in degrees. So arcs can actually be greater than 180 degrees. Angles cannot be, okay? All right, so arcs are measured in degrees like angles, and the measure of an arc of a central angle is equal to the measure of the central angle, and I'm going to show you what I mean, okay? All right, so let's talk about the types of arcs first. So I want you to go ahead and on this circle, I want you to draw some letters, okay? We're going to do X, Y, and Z. And with this, I'm going to call circle O, okay? All right, so a minor arc. A minor arc is an arc that's less than 180 degrees. Less than 180 degrees. And when we write a minor arc, we use two letters. And we have a symbol for arc. So if I was talking about it, we can see that arc XY is less than 180 degrees. I would use XY, and above it, I'm going to have an arc symbol. So it's like a half moon, okay? A major arc is an arc that's more than 180 degrees. Now remember, I said that with angles could never be more than 180 degrees, but arcs can because they are rotations of circles. And as you know, you can go around a circle, one full rotation, you would have gone 360 degrees. Okay, so a major arc is arcs that are more than 180. We use three letters, so I might put a P here. So I might say X, Y, P, and use the arc symbol. Okay, and a semicircle is 180 degrees. Okay, so a semicircle, you want to look for diameters. So if I put a diameter in, the semicircle would be X, Y, Z, not X, O, Z, which can be a tendency for kids to want to do. So just be careful. When it's an arc, we're using the letters on the outside of the circle. All right, well, how do we work with that? Well, if we know that a central angle is equal to its arc, so this central angle here, I see that there's the center, okay, the circle of the circle R. Actually, let me change that to like K. If that's the central angle, then that tells me that this rotation, so this arc measure, is 100 degrees, okay? Now, because this is a diameter, that makes this a semicircle, which is 180 degrees, which makes this arc 80 degrees. Now, this other side is also a semicircle, so this is also 180 degrees. All right, so then we can find the arcs. So MN would be this. So it would be 100 degrees. MPN means you start at M, you go towards P, and then you go all the way around to the other N. So MPN would be 180 plus 80, so 260. All right, then PMN, let me change colors actually. Go to red. PMN is from here to M to N. Oh, that's a semicircle, so that's 180 degrees. And then PM is this little piece right here, which would be 80 degrees. And that's how you measure an arc. You use the central angle. All right, so I have that twice. Okay, so then you also can add arcs together, and we actually just did that. I added a few arcs together to get the non-overlapping arcs. So the measure of two adjacent non-overlapping arcs is the sum of the measure of the two arcs. So if I have arc AB here, and I add to it BC, so from B to C right here, then I will get mark. Now it's made it a major arc, so it would be equal to the measure of arc A, B, C. So I'm allowed to add the arcs together. And we just kind of did that in that last one. All right, so let's name some arcs. So minor arcs. They don't have to have radiuses drawn to them for them to be a minor arc. So AS is a minor arc. CE is a minor arc. AE is a minor arc. Why? Because they are less than 180 degrees. Again, I want you to look for diameters because those indicate semicircles. So anything smaller than that would be a minor arc. Major arcs, bigger than 180. So that semicircle helps me as well. I could do CAS. I could do SCA. So there's lots of ways you could do two major arcs. All right, the semicircles. So you really want to be careful. Remember, we don't use the center for the semicircle. So if it's a semicircle, the diameter helps me, but it's AEC. So arc AEC. And then another semicircle would be arc ASC. Now, just like segments, these can be flipped around, except S would have to be in the middle. You'd have the two endpoints of the arc that you wanted on the outside. All right, an acute central angle. So an acute central angle would be angle COE. All right, and then it says two congruent arcs. Arcs can actually be congruent, but you need to have some type of marking on them. The only thing that I do know for sure is that semicircles are equal because they're both equal to 180. So AEC, so arc AEC is congruent to arc ASC. Okay? All right, so that's how you name arcs. All right, so now this is where it gets tricky. Congruent arcs. Congruent arcs are arcs with the same measure. All right, so if you mark these little angles right here, congruent, those are central angles. So they're congruent, which means that this arc and this arc are congruent to each other as well. Okay, so those are congruent arcs. What happens, though, is you have to remember circles can actually get bigger and their arc measure can still be the same. For example, here, this is 90 degrees, and it cuts off this arc. So this arc right here is 90 degrees. It also cuts off this arc. It's still 90 degrees. Because those angles are proportional to the whole circle, it can be bigger. They don't have to be the exact same size circle for the arcs to have the same measure. So I just want you to think about that as you're doing arcs, okay? So I'd like you to try the next example, finding the measure of the arcs, and we'll go over those answers tomorrow to make sure you've got it. All right, the last thing I want to talk about is the clock. Earlier this year, we did actually find the measure of the angle between the hands of a clock. So I want to talk about that just to remind you. If I was asking you for 8 o'clock, I'd have a line going straight up and over to 8, and I'd be looking for an angle measure. So there are 12 sections on the clock. If I divide them evenly, if I divide 360, because 360 is all the way around the clock, if I divide that evenly, then in between each of the, and let me erase so you can see a little better, in between each of the numbers, it would be 30 degrees, okay? Meaning between 10 and 11, that would be 30, and then 30, and then 30, and 30, and 30, and 30, and 30, and 30. All of these central angles would be 30 degrees. Okay, so if it's 5 o'clock, that means that I've got a number way up on the 12, and I have a number on the 5. Because it's an angle that we're looking for, it has to be less than 180, so this would be the angle I'd be looking for. And there are 5 numbers between 12 and 5. You go from 12, so 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 sections, so that would be 5 times 30, so 150 degrees. 8 o'clock, I just look at it differently. I have the number on the 12 and then the number on the 8, and there are 4 numbers in between, so that would be 4 times 30, so 120 degrees. All right, guys, hopefully that was helpful, where you learned a little bit about central angles and their arcs. Have a great day.